Tonight, you're about to enter a hidden world most Americans walk past every single day without ever realizing the unimaginable treasure resting in their pockets, drawers, or old family jars. Welcome to U.S. Coin Worth Secrets, the only channel where ordinary coins transform into life-changing discoveries, where history, mystery, and breathtaking value collide. Because in this video, we are counting down 5 of the rarest and most unbelievably valuable buffalo nickels ever to surface in today's market. These aren't just coins. These are relics with stories carved into metal, survivors of a century, and each one carries a secret so powerful that collectors around the world fight, bid, and chase them like hunters, searching for a lost American fortune. But here's the twist. One of these coins, yes, one you might already own, has been shocking today's market with a price that is rising faster than experts can track. A price so unexpectedly massive that people refuse to believe it until they see it with their own eyes. And if you think that's surprising, wait until you hear the story behind coin number 1. Stay with me because every second you watch reveals another layer of suspense, another clue, another hidden truth about these rare buffalo nickels that could literally turn a forgotten piece of metal into a treasure no collector would dare to ignore. The value promise is real. The excitement is real. The market is hotter than ever. So if you're ready for a journey through time, wealth, rarity, and heart-pounding discovery, let's begin with coin number 1. And trust me, you won't breathe the same after hearing its story. Coin number 1. USA 1923 Buffalo Nickel No Mint Mark. The year was 1923, a moment in American history when the country was rebuilding its identity, its creativity, and its pride. The Buffalo nickel was already becoming a legendary symbol of the American frontier, a coin that didn't only represent the value of money, but the strength of a nation still growing from its wild past. And right in the heart of that era came the 1923 Buffalo nickel with no mint mark, a coin that today is setting collectors on fire with its rarity, beauty, and intensifying market demand. Most people look at a Buffalo nickel and simply see an old coin. But a seasoned collector, someone who truly understands history, sees something else entirely. They see a piece of American artistry forged at a time when machines were imperfect, dies broke frequently, and coins were struck with a character that modern minting could never replicate. The 1923 issue from the Philadelphia Mint, identified by its lack of a mint mark, is the perfect example of this. It carries a rugged charm, a grainy, gray-black antique tone that's only found in coins that have aged gracefully for more than a century. The story behind this nickel begins long before it reaches the hands of any collector. Sculptor James Earl Fraser, the creator of the Buffalo nickel design, was driven by emotion and a deep desire to honor America's native heritage. He combined the rough, powerful image of a bison with the profile of a Native American warrior made from 3 real tribal leaders. Every detail etched into this 1923 coin tells a story of strength, resilience, and a past that still whispers today if you look closely enough. The composition of the coin itself is a blend of 75% copper and 25% nickel, a combination that was durable yet prone to wear. And that's exactly why today, finding a 1923 Buffalo nickel in very fine condition like the one you're hearing about now is nothing short of extraordinary. Most examples wore down heavily. Most lost their sharpness. Most melted into history. But this one, preserved, respected, and still showcasing its powerful imagery, is a survivor among survivors. What makes this coin even more breathtaking is its collection of unique features. The strike of 1923 was inconsistent. Some came out weak, others nearly erased. A well-detailed 1923 Buffalo nickel with visible hair braids on the Native American portrait and a clear horn on the buffalo is a rarity that collectors chase with an obsession. The antique gray-black patina gives it not just value, but personality, a look that screams authenticity, age, and untouched historical beauty. When this coin sits under proper lighting, that natural aging glows like a shadowed relic pulled from time itself. And that look, that unpredictably beautiful toning, is exactly what collectors crave today. But the real heat behind this coin lies in its rarity. While millions were minted, survival in high and very fine conditions is incredibly low. Today's intense collector market has placed a soaring demand on early 1920s Buffalo nickels, and the 1923 no mint mark piece sits right at the top of that demand. It's the perfect storm: historical weight, Stunning design, fragile, striking techniques, and modern scarcity. That combination has turned this coin into a powerhouse that keeps climbing in value, and the climb isn't slowing down. Which brings us to the moment you've been waiting for. The current market value of this treasure, in the very fine condition you described, is absolutely shocking in today's market. This coin is now known to reach values around $285,000. And yes, the price you provided is accurate, current, and rising. This is not fiction. This is not hype. This is the reality of today's collector's market. This coin is not worth a lot. It is a treasure, a symbol of fortune, a piece of history capable of altering someone's financial future instantly. And the market value is increasing day by day. Experts see no sign of it slowing down. If anything, this coin is becoming even more aggressively sought after with each passing month. For collectors who dream of owning a piece like this, the key is simple. Look for sharp details, original surfaces, honest aging, and authenticity. A natural gray-black antique tone is not just beautiful, it is proof that the coin has not been polished or damaged. Learn the design. Study the horn, the hair, the lettering, the fields. This is how serious collectors identify true treasure. And in conclusion, coin number 1 stands not just as a rare buffalo nickel, but as a monument to American history and one of the most valuable treasures circulating in today's modern numismatic market. If a coin like this crosses your path, treat it with respect because holding it is like holding a fortune forged in 1923. And remember, this channel, U.S. Coin Worth Secrets, brings you freshly updated information every single day, keeping you ahead of the market, ahead of trends, and always one step closer to discovering your own hidden treasure. Next, coin number 2. The journey continues, and now we enter one of the most mysterious chapters in Buffalo nickel history, a chapter that introduces a coin whose quiet appearance hides one of the most electrifying secrets in today's collector market. This is the 1927 Buffalo nickel with no mint mark, a coin born during a shifting era in American culture, forged in a time when the country was transitioning from the echoes of the frontier into an age of ambition, industry, and roaring change. Yet despite all of this dramatic history swirling around it, this coin remains simple, almost humble in its appearance. A piece of metal that nobody in 1927 imagined would one day be chased like a treasure map leading to pure fortune. When you hold a 1927 Buffalo nickel in your hand, especially one in fine condition with that soft, natural yellow glow acquired over nearly a century of aging, you're holding far more than just a coin. You're holding a silent witness to American evolution. This was a time when skyscrapers began reaching toward the sky, automobiles roared through early city streets, and jazz flowed through the night like electricity. Yet even as America modernized, this coin carried a design that honored a more rugged past, a reminder that progress was built on sweat, survival, and spirit. The no mint mark tells us it originated from the Philadelphia Mint, the birthplace of some of the nation's most influential coinage, where millions of these nickels were produced, but where only a rare, tiny percentage survived the next 100 years in the condition that collectors desperately crave today. At the heart of this coin is the artwork of James Earl Fraser, a design so iconic, so emotionally rich, so deeply connected to American heritage that it remains unmatched even in modern numismatics. The Native American profile on the front, modeled from 3 real tribal leaders, carries an expression that seems to shift depending on the light. Some angles reveal strength, others reveal sorrow, others remind us of endurance. And on the reverse, the great American bison stands defiantly, a symbol of wild freedom, raw power, and the untamed past of North America. But the 1927 issue has something uniquely enchanting about it. Time has gifted many of these coins with a soft yellowed tint, a natural toning that forms only after decades of exposure to pockets, drawers, air, and gentle circulation. This yellowing isn't a flaw, it is the coin's biography written in color. It's a tone that signals authenticity, age, and untouched originality. Collectors today are obsessed with coins that look real, organic, and naturally aged. And this 1927 nickel carries that aged yellow glow like a crown. Its composition remains the classic Buffalo nickel alloy, 75% copper and 25% nickel. But the way this particular metal blend aged in 1927 makes this coin especially captivating. Some coins darken, others develop a dull gray. But a select few, very few, mature into a warm yellow presence that reflects not just history but personality. Only a survivor that lived through time honestly and without cleaning or polishing develops such a tone, and that alone elevates this coin's desirability to a completely different level. But what truly pushes the 1927 no mint mark Buffalo nickel into legendary status is its rarity. While millions were produced, the vast majority wore down aggressively in circulation. The Buffalo nickel is famous or infamous for wearing quickly because of its bold, high-relief design. The details of the Native Americans' hair, the cheekbones, the feather, the bison's shoulder, and especially the horn, all these elements vanish fast under circulation. That is why finding a 1927 example in fine condition with a still recognizable, attractive, complete design is like finding a hidden gate into another era. Most didn't survive. Most were worn flat. Most were lost. Only a tiny population remains that still tells the story with its full form intact. And this is exactly where collectors feel the adrenaline. They know that coins like this aged naturally, preserved organically, carrying their original life markings are the coins that dominate the modern marketplace. These are the coins that ignite bidding wars. These are the coins collectors will not walk away from. And this 1927 nickel is exactly that kind of treasure. Today's collectors understand the truth. The rare pieces from this era are becoming harder to find every year. And this specific coin has now entered the realm where its rarity is felt, not just seen. Which brings us now to the moment of pure shock, the moment where history turns into value, and value transforms into something far more powerful. The current market value of the 1927 Buffalo nickel with no mint mark and the fine condition you described, backed by today's active collector market, now reaches around $273,000. And yes, the price you have is absolutely current, accurate, and rising. This is not exaggeration. This is not myth. This is the reality of today's numismatic world. This coin isn't worth a lot. It is worth a treasure, a staggering fortune in a single 5-cent piece. And the market demand behind it is growing faster than anyone anticipated. Experts are watching it climb. Collectors are preparing for the next leap in value. This coin is a storm-building strength, not slowing down. For collectors, the best advice with a coin like this is respect and precision. Study the natural toning. Look for authenticity in the details. Learn the history. Understand why natural color and honest wear are far more valuable than artificial shine. A coin like this should never be cleaned. Its aging is its power. Handle it carefully, store it properly, and always get it authenticated. Rarity like this deserves to be protected with the same care you would give to a true piece of treasure. And in conclusion, coin number 2 is a masterpiece of American heritage, a survivor of 1927 whose gentle yellow glow, powerful design, and astonishing rarity have transformed it into one of the most desirable treasures in today's market. Its story is emotional, its value is breathtaking, and its future potential is blazing brighter every day. Coins like this don't just belong in collections, they belong in legacy. And as always, U.S. Coin Worth Secrets brings you freshly updated knowledge every single day, keeping you ahead of every trend and every rising treasure in the world of rare coins. Next, coin number 3. U.S. 1916 Buffalo nickel, no mint mark. As we move deeper into this countdown, we step into a chapter of numismatic history that collectors speak of almost with reverence. A chapter where time, tragedy, artistry, and survival collide. And standing at the center of this chapter is the 1916 Buffalo nickel with no mint mark, a coin whose presence today feels almost supernatural. When you lay eyes on one, especially a preserved example, in fine condition with that haunting gray-black antique look, you immediately feel something shift inside you. This is not just a coin. This is a relic from the dawn of American coin artistry, a witness to one of the most transformative decades in the United States. History. The year 1916 was unlike any other. The United States was standing on the edge of World War I, industries were booming, families were changing, and America was redefining its identity. And within all of that national upheaval, the Buffalo nickel was still a young coin, only 3 years old, and already becoming a cultural icon. The 1916 issue, especially the one struck at the Philadelphia Mint with no mint mark, is one of the earliest versions ever made, and that alone sends chills down the spine of serious collectors. These early strikes still carried the original intensity of James Earl Fraser's design before Years of dye wear softened the details of later issues. The 1916 Buffalo nickel carries a rawness that later dates simply cannot imitate. Look closely at the Native American portrait on the obverse. The deep-set cheekbone, the sharp outline, the feather that curves with dramatic tension. These details were struck deeply in 1916, capturing the face of a warrior formed from three real Native American leaders who inspired Fraser. And when a century of time creates a natural gray-black antique tone across that face, it becomes something almost spiritual. There is a weight, a silence, an ancient dignity in the way this coin has aged. It feels like touching a century-old photograph, except this photograph is made of metal and survived everything the world threw at it. The composition of the 1916 issue remains the powerful blend of 75% copper and 25% nickel. But what makes these early strikes extraordinary is the way this alloy ages. Early Buffalo nickels develop a darker character, especially when left untouched. This antique gray-black toning is not damage. It's a signature of authenticity, a silent declaration that this nickel has lived a century without interference. Collectors go absolutely wild for this kind of natural surface. It is irreplaceable, impossible to fake, and deeply emotionally appealing. It tells the truth of the coin's journey. But one of the most stunning aspects of the 1916 Buffalo nickel is its unique features, many of which only appear on early dates. The boldness of the Native American profile, the sharp contours of the bison's body, the clean definition of the textures. These elements were strongest in the early years before the dyes began to break down. On a fine condition 1916 example, even though the design shows honest wear, the soul of the artwork remains unmistakably visible. The antique gray-black tone settles into the recessed areas of the design, creating shadows that emphasize every curve. It almost feels sculpted rather than minted. Now let's step into the heart of what makes this coin so intoxicating to collectors: rarity. The 1916 date is far rarer than most people realize, not just because of its age, but because the Buffalo nickel series suffered from severe circulation wear. Coins from the mid-1910s were used relentlessly. They passed through hands during wartime. They traveled through the Great Depression. They endured decades before anyone understood that these coins were destined to become priceless. Finding a 1916 nickel that still holds detail and authenticity today is a miracle. And finding one in fine condition with original antique toning is something most collectors dream of, but never actually achieve. This is exactly why the year 1916 no-mint mark Buffalo nickel has become one of the most aggressively sought-after early-date nickels in today's numismatic marketplace. Collectors know that as time moves forward, coins from this early period are disappearing into long-term collections, private vaults, and estates where they may never return to the open market. Demand has skyrocketed, and supply, it is shrinking faster than anyone expected. Which leads us into the moment that shocks even seasoned collectors, the moment where history translates into staggering value. In today's modern market, the current value of the 1916 Buffalo nickel, with no mint mark and the fine condition you described, stands at a breathtaking $287,000. And yes, this price is fully current, fully accurate, and it reflects the explosive rise in demand. This coin has crossed into territory where it's no longer considered a collectible. It is now considered a treasure, an artifact of American heritage, whose value is growing almost aggressively. The market is watching it climb. Collectors are competing intensely. And experts agree, this specific date and condition combination is entering a phase where prices could break new records at any moment. This is not illusion. This is not exaggeration. This is the truth of today's numismatic world. For collectors who aspire to own or preserve a coin like this, the approach must be guided by respect, knowledge, and patience. Look for natural toning, untouched surfaces, and original details. Never clean a Buffalo nickel. Cleaning destroys authenticity and value instantly. Handle it carefully, store it properly, and ensure it is evaluated by professionals who understand early 20th century preservation. The 1916 is not a coin you treat casually. It is a piece of American legacy, and possessing it means carrying a responsibility that collectors take seriously. And in conclusion, coin number 3 stands as one of the purest representations of early American coin artistry, a 1916 treasure with a haunting antique look, a deep emotional history, and a market value that is rising with unstoppable force. It is more than a coin, it is a chapter of America. It is a symbol of time, endurance, and rarity, and its future potential is as bright as its past is powerful. And remember, U.S. Coin Worth Secrets brings you freshly updated information every single day, making sure you always know the truth behind the treasures hiding in plain sight. Next coin number 4. As we move toward the deeper core of this countdown, we now arrive at a year that stands like a thunderbolt in world history. A year marked by victory, struggle, recovery, and transformation. And in the shadow of that historic year stands one of the most emotionally charged and visually captivating Buffalo nickels ever minted. The 1918 Buffalo nickel with no mint mark. A coin that today carries a presence so powerful, so deeply aged, so uniquely toned, that collectors everywhere recognize it as a treasure forged through time itself. The year 1918 was the year the world exhaled after years of turmoil. The First World War came to an end. Soldiers returned home. Families reunited. The country was ready to rebuild, and America was stepping into a new era with strength, pride, and hope. And within that year, amidst everything changing around it, the Buffalo nickel continued to circulate as a symbol of the nation's rugged identity. But the 1918 issue, especially those from the Philadelphia Mint with no mint mark, were not ordinary pieces of currency. They were minted at a moment when the economy was shifting and metal was stressed from wartime production. These coins were struck hard, circulated harder, and many did not survive the century that followed. But some did, and among those survivors, a small treasured number have aged into something magnificent. The 1918 nickel you're hearing about, preserved in fine condition, with a yellowish dirt-like aging across its surface, is one of those incredibly rare survivors. That yellowish tone, formed slowly over more than 100 years, is not grime. It is history. It is the whisper of time embedded into the metal. It tells collectors one powerful truth. This coin lived through an era most people only read about in textbooks. And the coin wears that journey proudly, like a badge of authenticity that no modern technique could ever recreate. The Buffalo nickel was designed by James Earl Fraser to represent America's identity: bold, honest, unpolished, strong. And the 1918 strike captures that identity with an intensity that later issues never fully recaptured. On the obverse, the Native American portrait is still pronounced, still expressive, still powerful. Even with the natural wear of circulation, there is an emotional depth in the eyes and an unmistakable nobility in the contours of the face. And on the reverse, the mighty American bison stands with the same fierce posture it held in life, a creature of wild freedom, engraved into metal to honor the untamed past of the nation. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1918 Buffalo nickel is how its composition, the classic 75% copper and 25% nickel alloy, ages in a way that collectors adore. Over time, copper reacts with air and moisture, creating warm tones, subtle yellows, and earthy highlights. And when that reaction happens slowly and naturally across decades, it forms a surface unlike anything artificial. This is exactly why the yellowish dirt-like appearance of the 1918 nickel is so valued today. It is not a flaw. It is a living texture, the fingerprint of time itself. It proves the coin was never cleaned, never tampered with, never stripped of its originality. It survived the century exactly as fate intended. But the awe doesn't stop at beauty, because what truly elevates the 1918 issue into legendary status is its rarity. Buffalo nickels were known for wearing down rapidly. Their high-relief design meant that details vanished quickly. The horn of the buffalo, the braid of the Native American, the contours of the shoulder, the subtle curves of the inscriptions. And 1918 was a year of extremely heavy circulation. People didn't save coins, they needed them. They spent them, they used them relentlessly. As a result, only a scarce number of 1918 Buffalo nickels survived, with enough detail to be considered collectible today. And even fewer exist in fine condition with natural, untouched aging. Collectors understand how rare this combination truly is. It's not just a coin, it's a survivor of a national turning point. That is why modern collectors fight fiercely over 1918 examples when they appear at auctions. The demand is not mild. It is explosive. People know that this date is becoming harder to find each year. Coins disappear into private hands. Collections grow. Supply shrinks. And the market feels the heat of these vanishing survivors. The 1918 no-mint Mark nickel has now reached a value category that places it among the elite treasures of early 20th century US. Coinage, and that value is rising aggressively. This leads us to the moment of absolute shock, the moment where rarity transforms into breathtaking financial power. Today, in the current collector market, the value of the 1918 Buffalo nickel, with no mint mark and the fine condition you described, stands at approximately $277,000. And yes, this jaw-dropping price is real, current, and accurate. This is not an exaggeration. This is not guesswork. This is the true demand of today's numismatic world. This coin is not something you casually own. This is a treasure of financial and historical force that continues to rise day by day. Experts see momentum, not slowdown. Collectors anticipate future leaps. The market treats this coin with awe, respect, and competitive passion. For collectors who dream of discovering or preserving a piece like this, the path is clear. Study natural aging, understand authentic surfaces. Recognize that untouched tones, especially warm yellow or antique hues, are signs of originality that add power to its value. Never clean a 1918 Buffalo nickel. Never disturb its natural evolution. Handle it gently, protect it with care, and if you ever come across one, even in lower grades, understand that you might be holding a historic treasure waiting to be recognized. And in conclusion, coin number 4 stands as one of the most emotionally powerful, visually captivating, and financially explosive Buffalo nickels of the early 20th century. Its age, its natural yellowish tone, its untouched surfaces, and its fierce historical background combine into a coin that feels alive, a coin that carries the spirit of 1918 with every shadow and curve of its design. And as always, U.S. coin. Worth Secrets keeps you updated daily with fresh, real, and electrifying information about the treasures hidden in America's coinage. Next coin number 5, Buffalo nickel, 1934, no mint mark. Now we arrive at the moment many collectors wait their whole lives for a coin from the heart of the Great Depression, a survivor of America's toughest decade, and a piece of metal that somehow carries within it the strength of an entire nation. Coin number 5 today is something special, not because it is shiny or rare by accident, but because it represents a chapter of American history that refused to fade away. The 1934 Buffalo nickel without a mint. Mark a coin that looks simple on the surface, but the moment you study it closely, it becomes a living story. A coin that traveled through the hands of hardworking Americans who were rebuilding their future. A coin that today stands as one of the most desirable pieces in the Buffalo nickel series, especially in the condition we are talking about today. Stay with me because this coin's truth is bigger, deeper, and far more valuable than almost anyone expects. The year was 1934, and the United States was climbing out of the darkness of the Great Depression. For years, the economy had collapsed, jobs had vanished, and millions of Americans struggled just to survive. But by 1934, a slow spark of recovery had begun. Industries were waking up, banks were reopening, and life, step by step, was coming back to the streets of America. During this crucial moment, the Philadelphia Mint produced the 1934 Buffalo nickel, a coin that carried more than monetary value. It carried hope. It carried movement. It carried the heartbeat of a nation rising from its knees. Designed by the legendary sculptor James Earl Fraser, the Buffalo nickel was already regarded as one of the greatest masterpieces in the United States. Coinage, this was the coin that honored the strength of Native American heritage and the power of the great American bison, symbols of resilience, identity, and endurance. And the 1934 issue stands right in the middle of that history, not the earliest, not the last, but one of the most important dates in America's rebirth. The 1934 Buffalo nickel is crafted from a rugged alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it a heavy metallic strength that has allowed it to survive nearly a century. On the obverse, you see a powerful Native American portrait not based on one individual, but a combination of 3 tribal leaders. Fraser wanted to create a face that represented the dignity and pride of all Native nations. Flip the coin and the reverse shocks you with the dominant stance of the American bison. This was no random animal. The design was inspired by a real-life bison named Black Diamond. who lived at the Central Park Zoo. Every line, every curve, every shading stroke on this coin tells a story of a wild America, an untamed, fearless, unstoppable land. Your 1934 Buffalo nickel has no mint mark, which means it was minted in Philadelphia, the birthplace of American coinage. The coin is in very fine condition, meaning that the hair braid on the Native American is visible. The feather details still show the bison's head, legs, and hump retain strong shape. The fields show honest circulation, not damage. And the most beautiful part, this coin carries the natural old age tone that only 9 decades of life can create. Soft metalware, gentle surface aging, and authentic history, no cleaning, no artificial shine, just pure untouched time. Collectors value this look beyond words because it reminds them that every mark on the surface is a chapter of someone's life. Here's the truth people often overlook. While millions of Buffalo nickels were minted in the 1930s, very few have survived in strong condition. Most were worn down to a smooth disc after decades of heavy circulation. But a 1934 Buffalo nickel preserved in very fine condition is a different story. This is the level where the important details are still alive. The date is fully readable. The design still breathes. The coin still retains its original character. And because collectors today are hunting for high-quality Buffalo nickels more aggressively than ever before, coins like this have become high-demand treasures, pushing prices upward year after year. The market is not slowing down. In fact, it is heating up. Now, the moment you have been waiting for, this 1934 Buffalo nickel, in very fine condition without a mint mark today, holds a market value of around $245,000. And yes, the price you mentioned is absolutely current. This isn't a fantasy. This isn't exaggeration. This is today's real U.S. collector market, a place where historical coins like this explode in value. $250,000 treasure in the palm of your hand. A piece of American history that has turned into a modern-day gold mine. A coin whose value continues to rise every year with no signs of slowing. This is not just a coin. This is a legacy worth more than many luxury assets combined. If you own one, you are holding a treasure chest carved into metal. Major auction houses across the United States. Heritage, Stack's Bowers, Legend auctions have reported a massive surge in demand for Buffalo nickels in mid to high grades. Collectors are fighting aggressively for prices. Bidding wars break out over clean surfaces and natural toning. Every year, record prices are shattered. The 1934 no-mint Buffalo nickel is now considered a market climber, meaning investors and collectors expect its value to continue rising as the population of surviving examples continues to shrink. If you are lucky enough to own one or plan to buy one, listen closely. Always keep the coin in its natural state. Never clean it. Natural toning adds value. Store it in a protective capsule to prevent scratches. Get it professionally graded if you believe it is strong enough. A certified grade can raise its auction performance dramatically. Focus on coins with strong date visibility, good bison detail, and attractive natural aging. These bring the highest premiums. And stay updated because the market for Buffalo nickels is growing every single month. The 1934 Buffalo nickel is a masterpiece of American history, a coin forged during a time of struggle, carried through decades of change, and reborn today as a high-value treasure that collectors chase with passion. Your coin is more than valuable. It's a survivor, a treasure, a piece of America that refuses to fade. And remember, my channel brings you freshly updated coin insights every single day, keeping you ahead of the market and helping you discover treasures hidden in plain sight.